and welcome back to Scale Me Down and to part 4 of this mini-series where we build, fly and review this 3-metre Tony Ray Mini Mower glider kit. Remember to like and subscribe to support the channel. And you can see now that most of the structural work is completed and all that's left to do is to fit the radio gear, the covering and the final assembly. So let's get started. I'll start by fitting the supplied elevator hinges. I just needed to clear out the laser cut slots and cut through the doublers with this hinge slotting tool. These pinned hinges seem to be of good quality and the laser cut slots makes fitting them accurately easy. The aileron hinges look like a copy of a Robart pin hinge. To fit them, we must drill some holes into the wing and the ailerons. To help us out here, there's a line laser etched into the centre of the aileron leading edge. And I've also installed these balsa blocks to help support the hinges. These hinges will all be fastened permanently after covering. First though, we could do to address the terrible fit of the tailplane. Using parcel tape as a barrier, I mixed up some body filler to make up the gap. Once cured, I removed the tailplane and sanded the filler flush with the fin. Now it fits much better. Before we move on to the covering, we need to tackle the air brake installation. And here, the 32nd ply parts were both warped and very flimsy, so I laminated a veneer of 64th ply to stiffen them up and keep them flat. There's not much room in here, but at least they remove for covering with these bolts. I wrapped the servo in masking tape and glued it directly to the mount using epoxy. You mount the supplied long M2 bolt through the servo horn, which slides in this laser cut bracket during operation. Now this might offend some of the scale purists out there, but I chose this transparent magenta covering and also some opaque white from McGregor. I chose it because I want to show off the laser cut structure and we both really like the colour. For the wings and tail surfaces, you'll need about 5 meters of it, and we helped it stick by first treating the wood with sanding sealer and then a coat of thinned balsa lock. Meanwhile, I covered all the sheeted areas, including the fuselage, hatch and wingtips with lightweight 25 gram per square metre fiberglass and epoxy resin. After lots of filling, priming and sanding, I spray painted these parts. And once all the covering was done, it was time for the final assembly and fit out. Here I'm fitting the elevator hinges permanently with 30-minute epoxy after first packing them with Vaseline. And then I can screw on all the control horns into the pilot holes I drilled earlier. All the hardware you'll need is of good quality and is supplied in the kit. These ball linkages are a nice addition to ensure slop-free controls. However, the supplied push rods were not fit for purpose as they were much too soft, so I stiffened mine up by binding them to a carbon rod with thread and epoxy. The servos I'm using here for the elevator and rudder are nothing special, but note how access to the elevator servo is limited once the cockpit glazing is fitted. Meanwhile, I installed pull-pull cables to drive the rudder instead of the pushrod suggested. The remaining hardware and finishing touches were fun to fit. However, realistically the tailplane is not removable as the rear bolt is blanked by the rudder. Of course I had to add one of our signature pilots, and this is a bust of Gwen. For more details of how I make and paint these, I'll put a couple of links up here. Here she is, all finished and ready to test fly. But what did I really think of this kit during the build? As with all Tony Ray kits, the laser cutting is both accurate and excellent, and I think the hardware supplied with the kit is of good quality. On the whole, I've really enjoyed the build, particularly the build of the wing and tail surfaces. I found the sheeting of the fuselage hard going, however, due to the poor selection of wood, as it was just much too dense. And this means that the tail is a bit too heavy, needing 900 grams or nearly 2 pounds of lead to be loaded into the nose to maintain the correct centre of gravity. And that brings the flying weight up to 2.6 kilograms or 5 3/4 pounds rather than the 2.1 kilograms stated. I think that the wing joiners need a redesign. And also the complexity of the design means that this kit is aimed at advanced builders. However, with a few tweaks and redraws of a few parts, I think it'd be possible for most intermediate builders to put together. I think the instructions supplied are a big improvement on his previous offerings. And identifying the part is now much easier thanks to the part location lookup table at the end of the instructions, and the part numbers are etched on many of the parts. Join us next time for part 5, where we'll conduct the maiden flight and we'll see how she performs. See you next time on The Slope.